Alright, wrong overlay, folks. We're back. And welcome to the Whitfield Report Saturday evening edition. Had to take a call, which lasted a bit longer than I thought. That's why we're starting an hour later, but we'll go an hour later tonight as well. So, welcome to the program. I want to thank you so very much for joining me here tonight. And as always, it's great to be here. Anyway, contact info if you would like to reach out to me. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @SamDMR_NDC, hashtag Whitfield Report, at Gab and Parler, at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report, thesamwhitfield.com. And as always, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and review and subscribe on wherever else you're listening to your podcast from. Great to be here, folks. Quick shout out to Danger Zone Worldwide. I have a feeling I know what that's for. Don't want to make any announcements, yet, but, we could be getting the band back together, folks. A Storm of Wrenches is in the chat. The coronavirus is back, and he says he's mutated and more powerful than ever. Mike, the coronavirus wants to know what my mic is. It's a HyperX Quadcast. I love this microphone, folks. I really do. A Storm of Wrenches is here, and Blaze Dust Dreamer is here. She says, I actually got notified. And yeah, the microphone is for tax purposes, so it's, I wrote it off as a business expense. So, no, it was actually a birthday gift that a friend of mine got for me who listens to the show. So, anyway, thank you all for joining me, and please share this stream if you are so inclined to on whatever social media sites you can. And let's get right down to it. I was going to do a show on Thursday on Super Tuesday, but didn't get around to it. That's the bummer about having classes on Thursdays. Is the Thursday show is kind of hit or miss, but regardless, I wanted to do some Super Tuesday stuff. And pretty much at this point, folks, yeah, I know that Bernie is still in the race, but at this point, our good friend the coronavirus here might as well, be finishing off Bernie, because Bernie's campaign, he dead, basically. And it's weird because I will admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong on this one, folks. I did not think that Joe Biden would make it this far. I thought that he would have been wiped out after the last debate, after the final Dem debate, because he did horribly. Of course, they all did, but as I played last weekend, his victory speech in South Carolina, it's clear that his friend Jim Clyburn seemed to, kind of rib kind of rig the thing for him. So, so Bernie is, for all intents and purposes, done, I think. Although, maybe not. There's a slight chance that he could still win in whatever remaining primary races, but it's looking at this point 90% like Biden is going to be the guy, so we're going with that title anyway. With that being said, the media is kind of freaking out, the drive-by media. It's funny, they were freaking out over, Bernie being the nominee, but now they're freaking out over the possibility that Biden is going to have to go up against Trump, and for good reason. I actually pulled this clip just a few minutes ago. This was brand new from thehill.com and their YouTube channel, and the title of this video is, "Will Biden defeat Biden?" And I think it's actually pretty, like even the Democrat media can't deny that, Biden is his own worst enemy. So let's take a listen to this, shall we? Clip number 1, roll the tape.
So, what should the Sanders and the Biden camps do now to shake up the race?
We are back with Don Calloway, Democratic strategist, and Jonathan Easley, national political reporter for The Hill. All right, so we got a whole new ball game, right?
That's right.
Delegate count will be pretty competitive, but the landscape is very favorable for Joe Biden, especially, look, part of why the Sanders people are able to hold on is because they had a lot of early vote banked. The day of vote went strongly against them. That's the landscape. You add to that now the Bloomberg endorsement. Things look pretty grim for Team Sanders. However, on the other hand, Joe Biden is still Joe Biden. And sometimes he looks like this.
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on? Let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take the nice pizza.
You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were.
Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone.
And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
And no, folks, that this is not bad. This is not bad lip reading. Unfortunately, I saw in the comments for this video there were a couple people wondering, is this bad lip reading? No, this is not bad lip reading parody, ladies and gentlemen. This is Biden at his best or worst. Well, no, actually, it's Biden just being Joe Biden, so, it's par for the course, I guess.
Beginning to see why your wife left you.
And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He folded up. He said, you walk out with that chain. And you walk to the car and say, you may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.
If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much.
So, Jonathan, that is the man that the establishment has now thrown all in behind, right? Not only to win.
Okay, so I don't think we need, I don't think we need to watch this entire, panel here. But they're all libs on that panel, and they all look extremely nervous. You saw that one guy give the nervous chuckle, so to speak. Now, listen, here's the thing. Biden is a gaffe machine. We all know that. We all know that he's, your crazy uncle, and, that he sniffs hair and, says crazy shit. And in fact, I by the way, folks, I'm also now on TikTok, by the way, and that's because a couple people actually told me to get onto TikTok, which, for those of you who don't know, TikTok is like one of those Vine things. It kind of replaced Vine. You can make 60-second videos and post them. Anyway, there are actually lots of conservatives on there, and so I just made one. And so my first TikTok was essentially saying something like, the Democrats called, Trump a loudmouth who says stupid shit, so they picked a guy who's a loudmouth and says stupid shit to be him. Great going, guys. That was the premise of my video. But anyway, and it's true. For all their complaining about Trump being a loudmouth and, he says, inappropriate things, they picked Joe Biden, who is just as bad, or if not worse. Trump may have said grab him by the pussy, but, that was in a 2004 interview. And, that was off mic. Biden, goes up on camera and sniffs women's hair. He made out with I'm not sure if he made out, but he long kissed his own granddaughter at a rally a few weeks ago. And it didn't look like the traditional, grandfather-granddaughter, relationship type kiss, or at least the appropriate one, I would say. And so the Dems are now betting on, one crazy man, Biden, to defeat the guy who they allege is crazy, right? Trump. And I don't think it's going to work out for them too well, but just because Biden is the nominee, do not think that this is going to be an easy race, ladies and gentlemen, for Trump. Don't think that Trump already has this in the bag and that this is going to be an easy race, because it's not. In fact, I predict, I don't know how the Dems are going to do it, but they're going to do their best to try and resurrect the Russia thing again. Sam, they've already done it twice and it's already failed twice. Why would they do it again? Well, folks, because third time is a charm, and that is pretty much the only card they have left to play. And they're going to jam the narrative down people's throats. And, I know that this audience is smart enough not to fall for, all of the bullshit with the Russian narrative. And I know that a lot of people who are in the circles that I run in are smart enough. And I know that there are a lot of smart people out there, but there are also a lot of dumb people out there who will continue to, watch the news and feed into this narrative. And so you watch. The Dems will try and resurrect this, as stupid as it may be, and they're going to try and, make it stick one last time. Can Trump, beat Biden? Absolutely. But that means that we all need to show up on election day. Still, none of us, there can't be any hagglers this go around on the we can't be staying home because we think that, Trump has it in the bag. This ain't one of those, election cycles. The Dems stayed home in 2016 because they were overconfident that Hillary was going to win the election. They thought that, Hillary had it in the bag, and that there was no way that this, this orange buffoon in their minds, there was no way that this reality TV star could possibly beat Hillary Clinton, their messiah. And, obviously we saw how that played out. Hillary lost big time, and ended up making it about Russia. If anything, the reality of the matter is that 2016 wasn't so much about Trump winning. It was about the fact that America hates Hillary Clinton so much that we elected a literal reality TV star to, become president over her. That's how hated she was. And of course they cried, sexism and bigotry. Speaking of, by the way, I have a story here from the New York Post, not the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen, but the New York Post, because apparently Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, is complaining now that she's been rejected, and she's claiming sexism, right? This gets even better though, folks, because not only did she get rejected by a lot of women voters, but headline from the New York Post, let me pull this up here. If I can find my viewer. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, headline from the New York Post. Elizabeth Warren rejected by Native American voters on Super Tuesday. Whoops. You guys are seeing the YouTube window. Let me fix that, folks. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty. Alright. Elizabeth Warren rejected by Native American voters on Super Tuesday. That's the headline from the New York Post. Among the most notable voters who abandoned Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren on Super Tuesday were Native Americans. Warren spent decades claiming she was part Cherokee and part Delaware, even taking a disastrous DNA test to try and prove it. She was ultimately forced to apologize and admit the claim was bogus, as President Trump mocked her as Pocahontas. I think that her claim and digging in her heels in the DNA test did her. Simon Moya Smith, a 36-year-old Native American activist, told the Post. That's why I voted for Bernie on Super Tuesday, and I didn't vote for her. A look at how counties with high Native American populations voted suggests Warren's past pretensions took a toll. Oklahoma, the Super Tuesday state with the largest population of American Indian voters, won strongly for Joe Biden, giving him 38.7% of the vote. Bernie Sanders was second with 25.4%, while Michael Bloomberg took third with 13.9%. Warren came in fourth with 13.4%. By the way, folks, 13.4%, that is still high. That is still higher, ladies and gentlemen. She still scored higher in the polls than she did on her Native American ancestry test. I do want to point that right there, folks. She still scored higher in the primary than she scored on her Native American ancestry test. But it was worse for her in counties with large Native American populations. In Osage County, home to the Osage Indian Reservation, Warren took 10% of the vote. Cherokee County, home of Warren's quote-unquote brother in Cherokee Nation, she garnered just 10.3% of the vote. A similar story played out in Utah, where Warren once again placed a dismal fourth with 15.5%. But in the state's San Juan County, where 50% of the population is Native American according to the U.S. Census, Warren took just 8% of the vote. There was a level of distrust, Moya Smith said. She didn't address Indian country, directly or Native problems until she wanted to be president. It was just extremely disingenuous on its face. Alright, so that is the reality of what happened, with her, with her campaign. She lost bigly, and what was bad for her, ladies and gentlemen, was no one in the Democrat Party, called her out on the whole Native American, bogus claim. No one confronted her on it at all. So, she didn't address that. No one brought it up. She should have maybe brought it up, because if she had addressed it and said, like, yeah, maybe I messed up or something like that, she might still be in the race. But no. That's not what she did at all. She doubled down and dug her heels in, and, that didn't pan out for her at all. Well, now she's also claiming that sexism was the reason why she lost the race. Tucker Carlson actually had a pretty good segment on that, as you will see here in a sec, because we have the clip for that too. And I will play this, but I'm going to break it down a bit. So here's Tucker Carlson's segment on Warren's sexism claim. Clip number 2.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Things are moving fast in American politics, but see if you can remember back 5 months to last fall. At the time, Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts was the most likely Democratic nominee. She had big leads in both Iowa and New Hampshire. She'd overtaken establishment-designated frontrunner Joe Biden in the national polling. The race last fall was Warren's to lose. And lose it she did, spectacularly. Warren didn't win a single state. In fact, she never took second. She got creamed in Massachusetts, where she lives. Today, finally, Warren dropped out, having succeeded only in humiliating herself. As the Babylon Bee put it, quote, Warren returns to tribe in shame after failing to take land back from the Palefaces. You can imagine how disappointed the Cherokees were. So what happened to Elizabeth Warren? Well, it's an interesting story, actually, filled with valuable lessons for political candidates as well as for the rest of us. But Warren was in no mood for learning today. She already knew the answer, as she so often does. And it turned out to be the very same answer she's offered in response to virtually every question she's been asked over the last 6 months. It was sexism. That's why she lost. Democratic voters, the majority of whom are female, hate women, Warren explained. They may have nominated a woman in the last presidential race, but that was probably an act of sexism, too. That's how sexist they are. Super duper sexist.
If you say, yeah, there was sexism in this race, everyone says whiner. And if you say, no, there was no sexism, about a bazillion women think, what planet do you live on? I promise you this, I will have a lot more to say on that subject later on.
Real quick, I do want to jump in here and say that this is the woman who had a beer summit, who had a quote-unquote beer summit in her kitchen, on Instagram Live. I can't remember whether it was Instagram Live or Periscope. Regardless, it was one of those two. And she can't even drink beer properly. This is the one who very robotically had to get a beer out of the fridge and was like, I'm going to have a beer because that's what young people like. Elizabeth Warren is just very unlikable. She's very screechy. She doesn't have a strong, commanding presence at all. She has no evidence to put forward that sexism was, the cause of her defeat. She just says, yeah, sexism is obviously why I lost here. And so, that was basically what happened here. So, yeah, Lizzie, great going. Your personality is why you lost. You're unlikable, just like Hillary.
That's a promise, she said. In other words, there will be many more lectures on sexism to come from Professor Warren. Buy your tickets now. The hall is certain to be packed. In the front row, you'll see your favorite cable news commentators who are themselves lifelong warriors against sexism. Yes, it is true that these are the very same people who have spent months now acting as publicists for Michael Bloomberg and now Joe Biden, both of whom are demonstrably male. But in their hearts, our friends on TV were always rooting for the woman. That's the kind of people they are, highly unsexist people.
Our country is still very uncomfortable with women in power. Men come into a race with the expectation that they're qualified. Women have to prove themselves. When a woman takes a hit at particularly a male candidate, she takes a hit in her likability.
Senator Warren was hammered on her Medicare for All plan and her tax plans in a way that none of the men were the entire last year. To me, that was a sexist double standard.
She would have done much better if she were a man. And I would like more men to be vocal about the fact that they want to see women in positions of leadership.
Yeah, well, folks, do you remember when Sarah Palin ran as John McCain's VP in 2008? Do you guys remember when she ran in 2012? Do you guys remember Carly Fiorina in 2016? Those are all women candidates that were running. The difference was they had an R next to their name. And there were plenty of men willing to vote for, them. So, it's not like we haven't had female candidates before. We just didn't want, we didn't want Hillary, and we didn't want, this delusional woman, Elizabeth Warren. That is simply the case. It has nothing to do with, gender or sex whatsoever.
Yeah, sexism. So you can see why Elizabeth Warren is so upset tonight. To be fair, Bernie Sanders did warn her more than a year ago that a woman couldn't win. He didn't want her to get hurt, but she just wouldn't listen. Just kidding. That never happened. Warren made it up. Or maybe she believed it happened, which is worse. Warren has convinced herself of a lot of strange things recently. It's been poignant to watch it happen. Warren is no Beto O'Rourke. She isn't doing bong hits on her skateboard after lunch. She's a legitimately smart person, without question the smartest candidate in the Democratic field. She's also tough as hell, and fake Indian affirmative action employee aside, she's fairly accomplished, especially by the low standards of political life. Nearly 20 years ago, Warren wrote a book called The Two-Income Trap about how the mass entry of mothers into the workforce left families poorer. It was not a predictable academic diatribe that ends with a call for socialism. In fact, it was interesting and well-researched, and above all, it was serious. Warren wrote about a real problem, one that affects most Americans, and then thought deeply about how to solve it. The book was impressive. It could have been the basis of a populist presidential campaign that would have forced much-needed national conversations about these issues, and in the end might have won. But none of that ever happened. Warren got derailed. More precisely, she became infected with a virulent strain of identity politics. By the end, like tertiary syphilis, it drove her insane. One day, Warren was talking about raising wages and protecting American workers. The next, she was ranting about strange forms of racism nobody had ever heard of, and then attacking the country she has once sought to improve. Elizabeth Warren went intersectional, and it killed her. Here were some of the first symptoms.
We live in a country now where the president is advancing environmental racism, economic racism, criminal justice racism, healthcare racism.
So raise your hand if you ever heard of healthcare racism. Raise both hands if you think it's one of this country's top 500 problems. Elizabeth Warren thought it was. Then she decided it was important, in fact, our moral obligation, to invite the rest of the impoverished world here to America to share our job market and our healthcare system. How exactly would that help American workers? Warren no longer cared. She was too woke to worry about actual people. By earlier this year, she clearly needed inpatient care. You watched her speeches hoping that men with nets would spring from the shadows to carry her off to a secure facility somewhere for a much-needed rest. Unfortunately, it never happened. The mania seemed to reach its peak in January when Warren suddenly announced out of nowhere that she would ask transgendered children to pick her cabinet members.
I'm going to have a Secretary of Education that this young trans person interviews on my behalf. And only if this person believes that our Secretary or Secretary of Education nominee is someone who is committed to creating a welcoming environment, a safe environment, and a full educational curriculum for everyone, will that person actually be advanced to be Secretary of Education.
Yeah, and that's another reason, Lizzie, why you didn't, get very far in this way. This trans shit and everything else is people are not ready for that, and like or not, libs, trans people are less than 1% of the population. To say that they're less than 1% of the population that's not even true, because they're less than 1% of the population. It doesn't even register how low they are on the totem pole in terms of that. And yet, Elizabeth Warren keeps pushing this, all these crazy narratives. Oh, I'm a Native American. Oh, mothers aren't allowed to return to work. And now this, this transgender Secretary of Education. Yeah, Lizzie, you didn't win because of sexism. No, it's because of shit like this why you didn't win. Plain and simple. So.
You like that? Let's do that.
So who is this young trans person who gets to staff the federal government? No one in the news media even asked, because it turns out Warren wasn't the only one who'd gone insane. All of this seemed perfectly normal to CNN. But it wasn't normal. It was shockingly crazy, almost hilariously crazy. But Warren was not amused. Most of the time, she appeared to be floridly enraged, like she might lunge forward and bite someone. For reasons that were never really clear, Warren really hated Bernie Sanders, the elderly ex-mayor from Vermont. At one point, Warren claimed that Sanders was, in fact, a dangerous sexist. But nobody believed her. It was just too implausible, whatever else he is. So she turned her wrath on Michael Bloomberg, a far richer target.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to...
Oh, this was actually one of my favorite parts to watch in the debate. This was fun to watch. The smackdown between Bloomberg and Warren was priceless. This was one of the key moments in the in that final debate that was funny. And the hilarious thing was both of them ended up getting taken out because of this little showdown between them. It didn't help either of them. And it was lovely to see them both fall because of this.
Win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another.
Got to give her credit. She could deliver a line. But by this stage in the campaign, no one outside cable news sets and college campuses was listening. Elizabeth Warren kept talking, but nobody cared. Why? Because it turns out that most people, even Democrats, aren't that interested in intersectional politics. They don't know how to pronounce the word Latinx, and they don't want to learn. It's stupid and weird and kind of threatening. It has precisely zero relevance to their lives. They want to hear politicians talk about making the schools better or lowering health insurance premiums, the things they actually think about at home. They don't want to hear some middle-aged lady drone on in an extended guilt trip, because in the end, it's really all about her. Identity politics is always just a form of narcissism. That's not appealing to anybody. You can't get elected doing it. Elizabeth Warren just proved that conclusively. Let's hope everyone else in politics learns that lesson.
Yep, and that's why the left keeps losing. Listen, this identity politics thing is not going to last forever on the left. It's just not. The left cannot continue to sustain themselves by going farther and farther with this intersectional stuff. It's just not going to work out for them whatsoever. They focus in on these minute issues and then complain that they can't, win and that they're losing ground. Well, the Dems are losing ground because, no one cares about transgender bathrooms at the end of the day. No one cares about, pronouns or, intersectional relations or the Green New Deal. What people want are jobs. They want, a good economy. They want, affordable health care. Not necessarily saying the government has to provide it, and they want reasonable taxes. That's pretty much all people want from the government. They don't want this, they don't want this endless level of coddling and, messing about from the government. That's simply not how things work. Okay. Now, on President Trump's side, President Trump participated in a town hall the other night, on Thursday night, I believe, on the Fox News channel. And I actually got a request from some people to kind of review this. Obviously I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I did watch the whole thing before the show started. But I do want to play this final segment because I think it is kind of pertinent to what we're talking about with the election, and yeah. So, anyway, clip number 3, go. Let's see. Here we go.
You talked this week to the leader of the Taliban.
I did.
And you said it was a good conversation in which you said you both didn't want violence. However, on that same day, the Taliban launched some 50 attacks in Afghanistan, 40 of them in one province. There are many Americans really wondering, and the U.S. struck back against the Taliban. There are many Americans wondering where the peace part of the peace plan is, and can you trust the Taliban?
So these are warriors. We've been there for 20 years. We're really serving more as a law enforcement group than a military group. We could win that war very easily, but I don't feel like killing millions of people in order to do it. We don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. People are tired. Even the biggest hawks are tired of being there. I had a very good conversation with him. There was a group that formed. And again, you know, they have many tribes and they have many different. It's hard for one. There's not like perfectly one control. I spoke to a certain man who is the leader, but the leader has not, it's not the easiest leadership position.
Structure.
And the structure is, you know, tribes all over the place. A tribe formed and a group formed that was going to attack certain soldiers, Afghan soldiers, and the military heard about it, and the military went and they took them out. That was it. I believe they really want to make a deal. I think after 19, actually going very close to 20 years, they're also tired of fighting, believe it or not. But they are warriors and they are fighters, and that's what they've done for 1,000 years. You know, just ask the Soviet Union, which became Russia, because of Afghanistan. You know, it's a tough place.
You have said that you want to, you know, end this. It's gone on for a long time. But what about the conditions on the ground? Because, you know, General Mattis had a disagreement with you about pulling troops out of Syria and Afghanistan. If your generals tell you...
I was so right.
If the generals say to you, Mr. President, we need more people, not fewer people right now, what will you do?
Well, Mattis said that, and I gave him more people for a short period of time, and it didn't work out. And what we were doing is policing on Afghanistan. As far as Syria, I did pull them out. I pulled them out. We were securing the border between Turkey and Syria. I said, why are we doing that? Turkey's big, Syria's fine. Let them fight their own battles. What are we doing with our soldiers? Getting people killed to secure. Now, the one thing, when I came in, ISIS was all over Syria, all over Iraq, and we don't want them coming to us. And it was a mess. You understand that very well. And I knocked out 100% of the territorial caliphate. 100%. We knocked the whole thing out.
But what about Afghanistan?
No, but just so you understand. So we knocked out the ISIS caliphate in vast amounts of the Middle East. And I did that fairly quickly. When I came, again, President Obama, it was all over the place. When I say we're not doing the borders, we did leave soldiers. We left soldiers because I kept the oil. And I was always against Iraq, going into Iraq. I think it was one of the worst, maybe the worst decision ever made. But I used to say, once they were in there, keep the oil. They never kept the oil. We have an oil area near Syria and in Syria. We kept it. So the only soldiers I have over there, they're guarding the oil. We kept the oil. So we kept the treasure. That's okay.
But if it takes more troops to keep the Taliban from taking over Afghanistan, is that something you would be willing to do or no?
Well, you know, there's a big question about the government of Afghanistan. There's a big question about that whole situation in Afghanistan. We're getting along very well with everybody. We have to get our people back home. It's not fair. We're a police force over there. We're maintaining things. Eventually, we have to leave. We don't want to stay there for another 20 years. We don't want to stay there for 100 years. We want our people to come back home.
All right.
Which I do have to ask this, though. Is that even possible with today's Middle East? Because and look, I'm not saying that we should be there. I agree that we should leave. But the Middle East, at least from what I've, read on it in my probably 15 years of, doing researching politics and doing political comment. Well, it's not. I haven't been doing the show for 15 years, but I've been studying politics for 15 years. The Middle East is like a revolving hotbed of just chaos. So if we're not there, it's just going to end up falling back into chaos. I'm sad to say.
Lynette has our next question from the audience about division, really, in politics. Lynette?
Oh,
Where are
sorry.
you? Oh, there you go. Hi, Lynette.
Hi, President Trump. I'm so happy to.
Real quick too, I do want to I'm just checking the chat here. Yeah, Blaze, all I'm saying is if you don't want to vote, that's you're right not to. I'm just saying that if you're a Republican, right, I don't think it's a good idea to sit the election out. Now, personally, I do think that civic-minded people should vote. I do think that things, change on the local level if you vote. And I got an eyelash in my eye, but I got it out. So, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to vote, that's your business. But I think that voting can be effective. Certainly in the case. And is Trump perfect? No, I'm not saying that either. But I think he's a hell of a lot better than Hillary. And, I certainly, to say that he's farther left than left, I certainly don't see the evidence for that, whatsoever. But, at any rate, that's how I see things. So.
Have you here?
Thank you.
From the day you came down the escalator in Trump Towers, I was on the Trump train.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like you too.
And I proudly wear my Trump pin every day of my life.
Thank you.
So
Great honor.
the question is, we are so divided as a country. I have family members who do not speak to me and recently was told, if you support Trump, you are no longer part of my life. How are you going to bring us together?
So...
Now, hold on. Hold on. I understand the question, but that's not necessarily the president's job, necessarily. Yeah, well, I mean, look, the coronavirus, as far as, Trump goes, I will say as far as presidents go, Trump is easily the best president of my lifetime. Certainly the only one who maybe, well, obviously I would think that Washington being the founder, and being the first president, like he was probably the best out of all of them, right? But that's going back. As far back as, recent history, I would say probably Trump, and then, I would say Reagan, too, if you want to know my opinion. But, yeah, Stormer is right, too. No one is perfect. So, as far as this unity question goes, I'm not really sure that that's, something that the president needs to, just on a policy level. I'm not really sure that he can. But let's see where this leads. Right?
I gave an answer before success, but it's really a little bit more than that because we've had great success and there is a division. There's no question about it. Politicians have to be able to be civil. If they're not, you have to fight back. You have to. Otherwise, we're not going to be. There's a movement on, and I call them the radical left Democrats, and it really is the radical left because we have plenty of Democrats that are terrific and they want to see, let's get together, let's get things done. There's so many things we could do. We've done a lot.
And let me tell you something about those moderate Democrats, too. A lot of them, I have them on my college campus. And I'm not going to name names, but I've convinced a few of them to vote for Trump because, as I just said a few minutes ago when playing the Warren clip, the left has gone absolutely nuts and batshit insane with this whole, third wave, intersectional feminism and transgender, everything, and just basically the far left has gone total communist, and I think even a lot of like moderate Democrats are starting to get sick of it, and they're starting to come over, and so I'm glad to do my part, to do that. I think this program, the Whitfield Report, has been effective in doing that, and I think that what Trump is talking about with unity, that's certainly part of it. So, continuing on.
More than any administration in 3 years in the history of our country for the first 3 years. And I say it all the time, and the press doesn't even dispute me, and they would do that. But we could do even so much more. We talked about a great question on the border, and the border question's true, but we should get rid of the loopholes. You can't do that without Democrat votes. I really believe we're going to win this next election, and when we do, the other side's going to say, okay, that's it, let's get along. I really believe that, but we have to win the election. Great question.
All right, Mr. President, we're going to do a quick lightning round here. Short questions, short answers, ideally. This one goes back to coronavirus in the beginning. You are a self-proclaimed germaphobe. In the campaign, before the campaign, you didn't like to shake hands. You changed that. What did doctors...
Well, I'm not thrilled.
Yeah, you're not thrilled. What did doctors tell you? Have you changed anything in the way that you operate?
So, yeah, it's a great question, because I've always felt, I don't know, from the time I was a young guy, I've always felt the concept wasn't good. Then you'd read a lot of medical reports, it's not good. Now, especially, they're saying, by the way, if there was ever a time that you could convince people not to shake hands, this could be it. Okay, this could be it.
Do an elbow.
But you know what I did? I love the people of this country. You can't be a politician and shake hands. People come out, when I leave, I'll be shaking hands with people. They want to shake your hand. They want to say hello. They want to hug you. They want to kiss you. I don't care. It doesn't, you have to do that. If I went around, no, I don't shake hands. Can you imagine I'm going to be with a group of people and they like Trump and they come up, sir, thank you very much. I don't shake hands. It's over. I don't care how nicely you say it. The bottom line is I shake anybody's hand now. I'm proud of it. They're people that I love. They're people that I want to take care of. Now, the concept of shaking hands since this, you're hearing a lot of stuff about try not to shake hands. It hasn't stopped me at all. But it is a little bit of a problem.
You said you had
but I got over
it in 2 weeks.
Well, I was kidding. You're not supposed to, I heard the other day you're not supposed to touch your face. So I went on camera and I said, listen, I haven't touched my face in weeks. Now, obviously, I'm kidding. I said, and I miss my face. And one of the networks said, he said he didn't touch his face. And they show pictures of me there. So I don't know. These people.
You have said, about being president, I didn't have to do this. You wanted to do it. What about your old life? Is there any little thing that you miss about your old life?
I loved my old life. The day before I announced I was running for president, that was the best period ever of my life. My company was the strongest it ever was, especially, being in development and real estate all over the world. I built a great company, but it was the strongest because you have times when the markets go bad and then you have to fight and then the markets are good and you're doing great. It was the strongest period of my life. It was sort of the best period of my entire life. And then I announced I was going to run for president. And, the greatest day of your life, they say, is the day before you announce you're running for president. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that, but they do say that about people. But in my case, I won. I won. I saw as an example, they were using numbers, and they were saying how much various people spent to become president. And Bloomberg spent like $550 million. It was in, of all places, the New York Times. And this guy Steyer, we call him Impeachment Tom. How did that work out? Not too good. Tom Steyer spent $250 million. Another. Steve Forbes spent a lot. A lot of people spent a lot of money. And I was sort of in the middle of the pack. This is your own money. I spent $70 million. And they said, lost. Donald Trump became president of the United States. Lost. And I said, isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? So I love it. You know why I love it? Because we are doing more than anybody can imagine. Even right to try. For years, they wanted to have right to try, where we can use our medicines if somebody's terminally ill. So many things we're doing.
But is there any little thing that you miss? I remember Michelle Obama said she missed, sort of going shopping or walking down the aisles. I mean, is there anything that you can't do now that
Yeah, I mean, I can't walk down the street now before I could. I was well known. We had a very successful business, and even my show turned out to be successful. I had many top bestsellers and things, you know. Yeah. But I could walk down the street, and I could actually walk into a store. And it was, fine. It was not like nobody knew me. But now, today, if I ever suggested that to Secret Service, I think I'm going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue and let's go shopping. So it's a lot different. So I do miss that. I miss that sort of free life. This is not a free life. But I love what we're doing because we're accomplishing more than anybody's ever. I'm viewing it as we're saving this country. This country was going wrong.
Mr. President, very last question. Who is your closest friend in Washington?
Well, I don't want to say because I have a lot of close friends. I really do. I'll put everybody in the spot. I get along great with our vice president. I keep hearing I'm replacing him. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's a great guy and a loyal guy, and he works so hard. Every day I read, he's going to put this one, he's going to put that one, he's going to put... If I did, that would be a great act of disloyalty because he's been great. I speak to him a lot. But I speak to all of the senators a lot. I speak to all of the congressmen a lot. We have great people in Washington. And you have great Democrats, too. I mean, I speak to Democrats also, believe it or not. But we have great, great people in Washington, very smart people in Washington. And it's going to come together. It's going to come together. And it's going to be sooner than you think.
President...
Alrighty there. So I know that clip I played a little long, but I actually had to download a few videos I was trying to download earlier to queue them up, and those are downloaded now. So I wanted to play that because believe it or not, there were actually a lot of Democrat opinion columnists out there who didn't think that Trump would do well on that, spot, particularly, when answering tough questions about the Middle East. And, look, the Middle East, as I just said, is a complex, problem. And, like I said, I'm not sure we can leave it, but Trump did well on that town hall thing. Now, granted, Fox News is a bit more conservative, so that there is that. I would be curious how Trump would perhaps do in like a CNN town hall. As much as I dislike CNN, I would be curious how Trump would do in enemy territory, quote unquote. But that went pretty well, actually, I would say. So Trump still got it. He's very optimistic, and I think that this is shaping up good for 2016. So, yeah. Coronavirus in the chat says, if Trump shot someone in Fifth Avenue, I'd certainly be on his side. Why? Because he's litigious and careful. I trust that guy's judgment. Oh yeah, coronavirus. You're going back to the. If I shot someone on Fifth Avenue, I could get away with it. That's an old. That is an old, good. Well, not old. That was only 4 years ago, but that is a classic. Trump moment. One of my faves for sure. I might have to pull that one up for a future show. Who knows? So. Yeah, yeah. Well, no. Coronavirus was making reference to a joke that Trump made that where Trump said if I shot someone on Fifth Avenue, people would still vote for me. I mean, at least Trump's honest about it. He's not trying to suicide people like Hillary is. But anyway, since I didn't do Thursday's pop culture and entertainment show, I do want to do a little quick segment on that for you guys. Starting off with didn't mean to click that. Here we are. So I kind of want to start off like a new segment. Mainly this is going to be on the Thursday show, but interesting stuff I found on the web this week. This will kind of be like my equivalent of things that I like. So someone sent me this pretty funny clip of from the Adam Carolla podcast where Adam's co-host Gina Grad, who's his producer as well, did a pretty spot-on impression of Nancy Grace, the judge, on HLN. And I believe that this was their bit about improv, but I'm not sure. And this bit cracked me up when I heard it this week on the podcast. And yeah, I think it's worth sharing. And then I'll have a brief, movie review / recommendation. This week it's actually going to be a documentary for you folks, which I rarely do. But I think you guys like this. So, first clip coming up, Adam Carolla, interviews Nancy Grace, quote unquote.
Nancy Grace?
Yes.
What if I was your groundlings teacher and I was trying to teach you the basics of improvisational comedy?
I'd love it, Adam. I'd love it.
All right. Well, I'll just, we'll get a relationship. Let's get married couple. I'll be the husband.
Okay.
And you enter the bedroom, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just stop down for a second.
Yeah.
Adam, or Mr. Carolla, since you are a teacher.
At the Groundlings, yes.
Right.
31 years, by the way.
Very good. Congratulations on your success. Why would you decide for our first improv scene together, our first improvisational scene, that we have some sort of an intimate relationship?
Husband-wife. They
you
say
don't
pick
know
a relationship.
Me. Out of all the relationships under the sun, there's client attorney. There's predator prey.
Right.
There's true crime novelist, true crime subject, and yet you immediately take me into your bedroom.
Okay. Well, maybe I was okay. Why don't I tell you what? Why don't we just be husband and wife will be in a jacuzzi?
Hold on, Adam. I don't think you're quite getting my point. You just went from something where I would have a full house coat on to something akin to a one-piece. Maybe a two-piece.
No, I see it more as a one-piecer, but... okay, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? Sauna?
Look, I'm here to learn. Excuse me?
I'm open.
I'm here to learn the craft of improv.
The thing about this, too, is I actually know someone who met Nancy Grace a long time ago, and this bit is extremely accurate as to how she would actually be. So I will link this bit in the show notes for those of you guys who are interested. But pretty great bit here from Adam Carolla. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, quick movie review and, actually this week's is also a documentary. I thought I had the link pulled up here, but evidently I don't, so let me pull up IMDb real quick, but let's see. And yeah, folks, like I said, sorry I've started the show so late, but that's just how things go sometimes. I was actually on the phone with my dad, and we were actually talking about this film. So, pull this up. Okay. So, for those of you who may or may not know, ladies and gentlemen, I am a huge fan of the, new wave / punk rock trio known as The Police. Obviously that's the band where Sting was made famous. The Police is probably like number 2, on my favorite band list. Number 1, of course, being the Who, for those of you who, know me well. A little inside baseball. At any rate, Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police, made this documentary actually probably 10 years ago now, called Everyone Stares the Police Inside Out. And for those of you who are curious, let me pull this up here. So here's the information on IMDb. It just got re-released here actually in 2019. It's got 7.2 out of 10 stars on IMDb. I think it's very well done. What's unique about this documentary is Stuart Copeland actually takes footage that he shot with a 8mm camera back in the 70s and actually put this film together in Final Cut Pro, which is something that I've been playing around with for the last couple months, ever since I got this new MacBook of mine. And he does a great job of illustrating the band's history, and I really enjoyed this documentary. Actually, I'm not done watching it yet. I was watching it earlier this evening, haven't had the chance to finish it, but so far I really enjoy it. So yeah. Anyway, here is the trailer for Everyone Stares the Police Inside Out, and this will be a real short one, folks, and then we'll get out of here. Clip number 5.
The hottest band in the world. The Police. The Police.
In the winter of 1978, I got this movie camera.
The Police are being hailed as the world's most popular band.
I blame the man holding this camera for all my problems.
Yep. So, it's actually a pretty good documentary if you guys get the chance. So, all right, folks, and that'll do it for tonight, folks. I don't have a lot more to cover. We will continue to, take a look at what is going on in the primaries and alert you to what is going on. In the meantime, folks, God bless, God save this great nation, and thanks for tuning into the Whitfield Report. Whatever you folks do not drink the turpentine, folks. It's not drinkable, folks. Forget everything that, certain cult leaders have said. It's not worth that at all, folks. So, yep. Anyway, folks, from all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good night. God bless. And God save this great nation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week on the Whitfield Report. God bless everyone, and good night. Hey there, folks. If you've made it this far to the end of the podcast, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the show. You are the ones that make it possible for me to make an income from podcasting, and I greatly appreciate that just by listening to our show. You are helping us gain ad revenue. However, if you would really like to help support the show, I encourage you to please donate to the podcast and become a supporter of the show. You can head over to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and click the support this podcast button and choose the amount that suits you to support the show. Or you can click the link in the show notes and it will directly take you to that page. If you can support the podcast, I really, really appreciate that. Anything that you can do to help out is greatly appreciated. Even if you can't afford to help financially support the podcast, I encourage you to please go on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher and please leave this podcast a positive 5-star review. That really helps us out here at the Whitfield Report. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode.